My name's Gordon Chait. I'm originally from Cape Town in South Africa and been living in Phoenix since the early 80s. Now I'm retired and decided I wanted to get back into boating again because I did a lot of boating in the past, but retired, and also I had a little bit of a medical scare with my ticker, so I decided that I wanted a nice boat again. People feel, what are you going to do with a boat in Arizona? Arizona at one time, and it still may be true, had more boats per capita than any other state in the United States, which is crazy. We are at Lake Powell, which is a very interesting lake, which is the second biggest lake in the United States, man-made lake in the United States, next to Lake Mead.
You guys have a good day.
It's on the border between Arizona and Utah. It's a huge lake, and it's a deep lake. It gets almost 600 foot deep at certain areas. I think it's got over 2,000 miles of actual shoreline. It's very long and at some areas it's very wide. Lake Powell is like nothing else on earth. This is a Stabicraft 1550 Fisher. It's called the Beast. My granddaughter, who's 8, who loves coming out on the boat with me, looked at this boat, and the first thing she said to me, looks like a beast. Don't quite remember how I found Stabicraft. I do a lot of reading of boat magazines. I might have even come across the Captain magazine. They were prepared to sell it to me without an engine, which I had my own engine, a 75 Honda, which I actually think is a good power for this particular boat. It's small, but it's very practical, and the fishing space on it is very well thought out. It's got a lot of freeboard. So when you're out in San Diego, and I was recently out there and the water was pretty rough, they had big swells, there's just not that feeling of being unsafe. As I was explaining to you earlier, the ones that are imported to the States by law, Coast Guard law, have to have flotation. So they're into these airtight pontoons that they've got. They have got foam. It's a very dry boat, actually. Any water that comes onto the deck is picked up by the bilge pump and goes overboard very easy. I've got dual batteries, and they all lifted off the floor, which I think is really nice. They're not going to get wet if you do happen to take water onto the deck. The most interesting thing that people like seeing is the way that you get to the bow of this boat. In front of the anchor compartment, you lift up the part of the windshield, and it's on, I don't know what you call that. They hydraulic struts that keep them up in the air, and you can get access to the bow for launching the boat and retrieving the boat. And I do it often by myself, so I'm usually by myself when I go to the local lakes, or with a kid that can't really do that. I just think good design, the deck's real easy to clean, and surprisingly, with our real hot weather in Arizona, because we get often in summer we get days over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, but otherwise I think it's a pretty perfect boat, especially for the size. We noticed something yesterday, which was very cold when we came to Lake Powell. When we woke up in the morning on Friday morning, which yesterday when we were going to go fishing and exploring, it was like 38 degrees, maybe even lower. So that's when we decided we would dress warm and we'd put up the canvas cabin here. So we got out on the lake, we went to buy our bait at the bait store, and then we went a small narrow cut that allows people to get to the main part of the lake, which, if you don't know that, you can spend an hour going around these little mountains to get there. And that's where we started out, and we saw a lot of bait fish and fish there, so it took us quite a lot of time to actually move from that area to the main part of the lake, because we were starting to catch fish there. If you've never been to Lake Powell before, you probably are better to speak to somebody that has fished it before. And we actually spoke to a guide. He didn't come up with us, but he told us a little bit about which small canyons he would advise, and we used 2 of those canyons to go to, and one of the 2 was very productive. And this lake, strangely enough, has been populated a long time ago with an ocean fish called striped bass. And there's a lot of striped bass, although we only seem to catch them, or Jack did, towards the evening yesterday with not live bait but frozen anchovies. When this was delivered without the engine, because they took the engine off my old boat, I got a text from one of the guys to say that the funniest looking boat had just arrived on a truck, on a flatbed truck. And everywhere I go, especially when I go to the local lakes in Arizona, it takes me a long time to get onto the water because everybody wants to talk about the boat, and especially guys with big boats, because they say, oh, what the hell did I buy a big boat for? I could have got this and everything I wanted out of it. Good design, safety, I like the looks personally, easy to maintain, and just a great boat. Well, the secret to good biltong is to use really good meat. It's the spices, it's the combination of spices and how they prepared, but there's a huge difference between good and bad biltong.